In fact, tomorrow, I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested.
Well, let's not say it.
We need to go. I'll say it.
All right.
We need to go in to the Capitol.
Let's go!
After months of investigation, Revolver News is zeroing in on Arizona-born former Marine Ray Epps, who can be found all over Washington, D.C. the night of January 5, inciting the crowd to invade the Capitol.
Tomorrow, I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested.
Well, let's not say it.
We need to go. I'll say it.
All right.
We need to go in.
Shut the up, Boomer.
To the Capitol.
Monument Hill.
Stop speaking. We are going to the Capitol, where our problems are. It's that direction. Please spread the word.
Epps is met with disgust by Trump crowds time and again.
Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol.
And is even called out as a federal agent.
Into the Capitol. Peacefully! Fed!
After January 6, Beatty says Epps was featured on the FBI's most wanted list. But after Revolver started investigating Epps, Epps mysteriously disappears from the list. Despite a library of video evidence showing Epps clearly leading and inciting the crowd, Epps appears to be a free man today.
It might make sense if they, didn't really care about Epps. But when they're playing this up like the next 9/11 and they're going after all of these other much more trivial figures, the fact that they would leave the one guy on tape who the night before 1/6 is telling a disparate group, we need to go into the Capitol. They're saying, what are you talking about? This is Fed talk. You said, no, we need to go in, telling multiple groups, and then not just disappearing from the crowd. He's literally a Where's Waldo on 1/6. If these people are telling me they just, by sheer coincidence, took his name off with no explanation a day after Revolver's report, that to me just doesn't seem likely. It seems to me that there's a larger explanation that the American public deserves.
Based on his investigation, Beatty is of the opinion Epps is not an informant, but is likely an undercover FBI agent. Revolver also highlights footage of John Sullivan, a suspected Antifa BLM undercover agent for the FBI, who taped the death of Ashley Babbitt and wore a MAGA hat while encouraging fellow rioters to burn down the Capitol. Sullivan also happens to encounter Epps, calling Epps out as an undercover agent type.
Yeah. What it's about. Not Antifa,
They actually
not
pulled
Black
him through.
Lives
They didn't just
Matter.
let him through.
This
They
is
helped
about
him
the
through.
Constitution. It's more
What?
important than
Yeah.
my life, your
Undercover
life,
agent
their
type. Yeah.
I want to turn to the FBI. How many FBI agents or confidential informants actively participated in the events of January 6th?
Sir, I'm sure you can appreciate that I can't go into the specifics of sources and methods.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants actively participate in the events of January 6th? Yes or no?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants commit crimes of violence on January 6th?
I can't answer that, sir.
Did any FBI agents or FBI informants actively encourage and incite crimes of violence on January 6th?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Ms. Sadburn, who is Ray Epps?
I'm aware of the individual, sir. I don't have the specific background to him.
Well, There are a lot of people who are understandably very concerned about Mr. Epps. On the night of January 5th, 2021, Epps wandered around the crowd that had gathered, and there's video out there of him chanting, "Tomorrow, we need to get into the Capitol, into the Capitol." This was strange behavior, so strange that the crowd began chanting, "Fed, Fed, 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 Fed." Ms. Sandburn, was Ray Epps a Fed?
Sir, I cannot answer that question.
The next day, on January 6th, Mr. Epps is seen whispering to a person, and 5 seconds later, 5 seconds after he's whispering to a person, that same person begins to forcibly tear down the barricades. Did Mr. Epps urge them to tear down the barricades?
Sir, similar to the other answers, I cannot answer that.
Shortly thereafter, the FBI put out a public post seeking information on individuals connected with violent crimes on January 6th. Among those individuals, in the bottom there, is Mr. Epps. The FBI publicly asked for information, identifying, offering cash rewards leading to information leading to the arrest. This was posted, and then, sometime later, magically, Mr. Epps disappeared from the public posting. According to public records, Mr. Epps has not been charged with anything. No one's explained why a person videoed urging people to go to the Capitol, a person whose conduct was so suspect the crowd believed he was a Fed, would magically disappear from the list of people the FBI was looking at. Ms. Sandburn, a lot of Americans are concerned that the federal government deliberately encouraged illegal and violent conduct on January 6th. My question to you, and this is not an ordinary law enforcement question, this is a question of public accountability. Did federal agents or those in service of federal agent actively encourage violent and criminal conduct on January 6th?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
Thank you.
The Capitol's insurrection.
At another point, Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas asked the Assistant Attorney General, Matt Olson, about Ray Epps. Epps is the man you've seen in multiple videos encouraging the crowd to storm the Capitol, but somehow has never been charged himself. Here's that exchange.
Okay, so it gets back to what I meant earlier, like asking if you're prepared for this hearing. You're the Assistant Attorney General for National Security. You run the National Security Division. The department has said that these January 6 prosecutions are one of their highest priorities. This is a man who was on the most wanted page for 6 months. Do you really expect us to believe that you've never heard of the name Ray Epps or you don't know anything about him?
I simply don't have any information at all, Senator, about that individual.
In other words, they really expect you to believe that. Quote, I simply don't have any information at all on that individual. So the DOJ knows nothing about Ray Epps, the guy on the most wanted list, right? That's absurdly false. And as if to underscore how absurdly false it is, within a short time, Democrats in the January 6th committee released a statement claiming that actually they'd already interviewed Ray Epps, and anyone who still has questions about his behavior on January 5th or 6th is a dangerous conspiracy theorist. Quote, Mr. Epps informed us, the committee said in a statement today, that he was not working with, employed by, or acting at the direction of any law enforcement agency on January 5th or 6th or at any other time, and that he has never been an informant for the FBI or any other law enforcement agency, end quote. Wow. Bombshell. Looks like case closed. We can forget about Ray Epps and move on. Sorry we asked. Oh, but wait a second. When exactly and under what circumstances did the committee talk to Ray Epps? Supposedly, this interview was conducted in secret last November. If that is true, we don't know that it is, but let's say it is, then why did the committee wait months to tell us today in a tweet? When the committee got its hands on Mark Meadows' text messages, we seem to remember they leaked those to the media within hours. And by the way, was this Ray Epps interview conducted under oath? Did Democrats subpoena his electronic communications, as they did with Meadows and so many others? Will the information Epps revealed to the committee be available to the many January 6th defendants who are now awaiting trial? Can their lawyers see a transcript of this interview? Can we see a transcript of this interview? If not, why not? And while we're at it, here's something else that's confusing. Epps is a longtime right-wing activist. As you know, he urged protesters to riot. Video from January 6 shows him at the forefront, right in front of the Capitol, appearing to usher others inside. So he wasn't just someone who was there, he was maybe the central figure there. And yet Democrats, for reasons that aren't at all clear, suddenly seem highly protective of Ray Epps. They don't want you to criticize him. Adam Kinzinger described Ray Epps today as, quote, nothing but a January 6th protest attendee. Really? Nothing but an attendee? He is, of course, the opposite of that. Of everyone there, Ray Epps is the one you should be maddest at if you're the Democratic Party. And yet they're telling you he was an attendee, not an insurrectionist, not a terrorist, just an attendee. Another engaged American exercising his constitutional rights. That's a huge change. It's bizarre. It doesn't make any sense at all. So what's going on here? Something is, that's for sure. And one last question. The committee has assured us that Ray Epps wasn't, quote, employed by, working with, or acting at the direction of any law enforcement agency. Okay. But why did the committee stop there? Would the committee be willing to broaden that statement and affirm in writing that Ray Epps wasn't working with any government agency, law enforcement or otherwise? That would be a very simple change to make. Let's see if they'll make it. Let's see if Republicans will force them to make it. And then there's this. There are a number of people like this. We're just going to give you one other example. Now, this man has been dubbed by internet sleuths as the scaffold commander. Now, he was shot from a variety of different angles on videotape on January 6th, appearing to give orders to the crowd from an elevated position. There's really no doubt, if you watch the tapes, and they're all available online, and if you're interested, you should, that this guy was coordinating the movement of the crowd toward and into the United States Capitol. Now, he's caught directly on camera. There's facial recognition software out there. Probably not too hard to find out who this guy is. If FBI agents can fly to Alaska and hassle old ladies on Social Security because they were present, they can probably find this guy. And yet, as far as we know, this guy, who clearly had some kind of management role that day, has not been arrested, has not been charged, or even publicly identified. What is that about? Here's some of the video. So there he is, scaffold commander, commanding the crowd to break the law, exhorting them forward to break the law. There was the largest manhunt in American history conducted after this day, January 6th. We're still talking about it, as noted, a year later. And yet this guy is not only unidentified, nobody in authority seems interested in the slightest in finding out who he is. Now, why is that? Now, we wouldn't know anything about this were it not for Revolver News, which we would say has done the best reporting on January 6th, but really, for being honest, done virtually the only reporting on elements of January 6th. Totally legitimate questions. Darren Beattie runs Revolver News. We're happy to have him join us tonight. Darren, thanks so much for coming on. So, I just want to check two facts really quick. So, Ray Epps and the man at the top of the tower commanding the crowd to break the law have not been arrested or charged so far as you know. Is that correct?
That's correct, and it's actually even more remarkable than that. So Ray Epps is the only person in the mountains of video evidence caught dead to rights saying we need to go into the Capitol and following up on his mission the next day. Not only is he not charged, he's not searched, the January 6th committee has not issued him a subpoena, and the latest information on Epps from the FBI is claiming that they don't know he even exists. Scaffold commander, same situation. Unindicted, unsearched, seemingly no interest in him. And there are a cast of other characters who played a decisive role in the very beginning of January 6th, creating the conditions to turn the event from a rally into a riot, cutting fences, removing barriers, inciting the crowd. All of these casts of characters covered in the Revolver.news piece, mountains of video evidence, they're unindicted, and it makes no sense.
Well, you know, it really doesn't make any sense. And I always, because I want to trust everybody, I think most Americans do, I always try to think, well, you know, what's the legitimate explanation for something like this? And I honestly can't think of one. And be as fair as you can. Can you?
I really can't. One could say absolutely gross incompetence. The only problem is Ray Epps was served to the FBI on a silver platter. The FBI included him as one of the 20 most wanted people. They said, please help us identify him. The internet identified him like 2 days later, and the FBI has done nothing. And so it's really, I'm at a loss for an innocent explanation for these discrepancies.
Can you imagine why someone like Liz Cheney, or I will just be honest, like virtually every Republican leader in the Congress has just ignored this? Why would they not want to get to the bottom of such an obvious and important question?
Well, because what the evidence suggests is arguably one of the biggest scandals in American history. Left alone, January 6th is a big nothing burger. But if it turns out that some of the key instigators and the key figures who played a role in turning this from a rally into a riot are actually informants of the government or even agents of the government, this is extremely damning to the elements of the government, and it completely destroys the false narrative that they're trying to engineer on the basis of this story, which is that Trump supporters are effectively domestic terrorists.
Look, I don't want to believe that that's true, but if it's not true, what's the other answer? And I don't think anyone watching should feel embarrassed to ask those questions or allow anyone to bark you into silence by calling you a conspiracy nut. Okay, so what's the answer then? Darren Beattie, I appreciate your reporting on this. It's been really unbelievable. Thank you, and brave.
Thank you so much, Tucker.
Unlike almost every other person near the Capitol on January 6th, including people who didn't even enter the building or commit any violence, Ray Epps has conveniently never been charged with a crime to this day. He hasn't even been arrested. So where has Ray Epps been? Thanks to brand new photos from the Daily Mail, it appears Ray Epps has been relaxing on his ranch, which is just outside of Phoenix, Arizona. The Daily Mail asked Epps whether he had any involvement with the FBI. He answered by yelling at reporters to get off of his property.
Wow, it's full all the way to the Washington Monument Hill.
Speaking. We are going to the Capitol, where our problems are. It's that direction.